Have you ever hit the wall in an ultramarathon? The one where your legs are screaming, your energy is gone, and you just want to quit. Imagine this. You're deep in the race, it feels like you're barely holding on, and your mind starts telling you to stop. But what if I told you the real battle isn't in your legs, but in your head? In extreme situations like ultra running, it's not the body that decides to quit, it's the mind. So how do you avoid giving in and push through when it feels like there's no way left to go? That's what we're diving into today. Stick around, because after this video, you'll walk away with the psychological tools you need to survive and thrive in your next ultramarathon. I recently completed a 4-day bush survival course. It was heaps of fun and highly recommend it, especially if you spend a long time outdoors in remote places, which we ultra runners often do. And it can't hurt to be prepared for worst case scenarios, right? What I most loved about the course was the module on survival psychology. In survival situations, it's our brain and the knowledge we have that is our biggest asset in getting out of a scary situation alive. You could say I've become a little obsessed with survival psychology since completing that 4-day survival course. Let's take some of the best tools from some of the most extreme survival situations and repurpose them to survive your next ultramarathon. This isn't just about finishing your race, it's about building the mental resilience that ultra runners need to push past the breaking point. You'll learn how to break down overwhelming challenges into manageable steps, tap into hope even in your lowest moments, and use simple but powerful mental tools to keep going when your body begs you to stop. The goal? To transform those moments of doubt and pain into opportunities for growth and help you finish every ultra you take on stronger, smarter, and with a better understanding of how your mind works under pressure. Dr. Kenneth Kemmler, surgeon, avid explorer, and author of the book Surviving Extremes, notes that all survivors have some combination of the factors of knowledge, conditioning, as in physical, fitness, strength, and luck. Now, I'm a big believer in that we make our own luck. However, when we look at extreme survival situations, the people who live to tell their stories do often have very good fortune at certain times. A plane flies overhead just as they need to be spotted, they stumble across a water source or find shelter when most needed. And the same can be said for ultramarathons as well. A little luck definitely goes a long way. However, that's outside of our control, so we're not going to focus too much on that today. There is a vital fourth factor, and that is the will to survive. Dr. Kemmler notes that without the will to survive, people perish. The will to survive is the spirit to go on. It's an attitude. In the face of all odds, it's the ability to continue. It's not giving up. He states that it's the brain that goes soft. It is the brain that gives up the fight for survival. And I tend to agree. Surviving an ultra is the same. Our bodies might ache and hurt. However, it's our mind that decides if we've had enough, and thus DNF. Now, just a quick caveat here. There is nothing wrong with DNFing, especially when it's unhealthy or unsafe to continue. We should stop and live to fight another day under those circumstances. I'm referring to those moments when we stop and not long later we have a very heavy emotional burden where we deep down know we could have continued and pushed on. So how do we stop our brain from going soft and stay engaged in the fight to survive? Let's use the survival triangle to help us navigate this challenge. John Hudson, Chief Survival Instructor to the British Army and author of an awesome book, How to Survive, provides a great description of the survival triangle, and I'm going to share it here with you today. He states, what causes people to lose hope is not only the suffering, but the feeling that we cannot control the suffering. If you've got a small element of control over a situation, it allows you to act in a positive way toward a known goal. Once you start to exhibit some control over the situation, this works equally well in running ultramarathons as much as it does in survival situations. You'll realize that suffering is manageable, it is controllable, and that instills hope. This allows us to see successful future outcome, which we can then plan for. And planning then becomes more tactical. We will look at the next step, and the planning itself initiates our next action. The action further instills hope. Hope allows us to plan. So it becomes a self-reinforcing process of hope, plan, work. Hope, plan, work, leading to us persevering and enduring our suffering or difficult situation. We drag ourselves out of our low point and to the next checkpoint. This is the psychological process of chunking, the key to success in ultramarathons. It's far too overwhelming to think that we have to run 100 kilometers, 100 miles, or run for 35 hours, whatever the enormous distance is. It's just too much to contend with mentally. Yet breaking it down into smaller manageable goals, it then starts to look achievable. So breaking your race down into stages, checkpoints, or sections of the course feels less overwhelming for our fatigued body and mind to wrestle with deep in an e-ultra. We When we then achieve each small goal, it's a positive message of progress. We get a mental boost, instilling hope and possibility. Again, hope, plan, work. Hope, plan, work, repeat. This brings us to the next point, one that I think is fundamental to any successful ultra runner, and that's fostering realistic optimism. Realistic optimism is a crucial part of matching your capabilities to the situation. One method to build optimism is through developing gratitude practice. I've covered this in great detail as a standalone module in my free course. See the link below for that. In that, I emphasize the need for optimism to be realistic. And here's why. Hudson, in his book, shares the story of philosopher and admiral pilot John Stockdale, who was shot down and captured in North Vietnam. He was held in the Hanoi prisoner of war camp for 7 years in unimaginable conditions, tortured, so much suffering. What he noticed, paradoxically, was the people that didn't survive or do well in the Hanoi Hill were the blind optimists. Their optimism wasn't based on any form of reality. He provides the example of prisoners who thought, oh well, we'll be home by Christmas. And since there wasn't any evidence to support this thought, they were incredibly disappointed on Boxing Day, losing hope in the process. This is now termed the Stockdale paradox. Far more effective was realistic optimism, where you assess the situation accurately, the threats and the challenges, then make a realistic calculation of what is possible and what can be done. Control the controllables. If you have hit a horrid patch in your ultra, perhaps you're cramping, your pace has slowed significantly, we can't hold on to our initial race time goals. It's too disheartening if we keep ruminating over that. We have to be quick to adapt and change our thoughts and our focus. Focus on the very next step, breaking the big goal down into what is realistically possible. And perhaps that means hiking to the next checkpoint. You can then reassess your situation again at that point and continue to work through that process. There is always a silver lining, no matter how dark our rough patches. Use short, realistic stepping stone goals to build that hope again. Remember, hope, plan, work. It's amazing the comebacks we can muster if we just stay in the fight long enough. The trick in this process is to move our brains out of that threat response area and into the more rational space. A simple way to explore this is by again borrowing from survival circles. We can use the STOP acronym. It stands for sit, think, observe, and plan. By sitting, we stay calm. We get out of the panicky, tricky brains, take a deep breath, and then we think through the situation. For example, we think we might have ran off course in an ultramarathon. There's no point panicking and getting angry and overly upset. We'll only burn through much needed energy and potentially make rash, unhelpful decisions in the process. So stay calm. You can either sit down, eat some food, or just stand still. Think back to when we last saw a marker. Observe our environment. Notice landmarks we can see. Can I hear any other runners? Can I see other footprints in the trail? Then, with all the above information, make a rational plan, i.e. I'm going to retrace my steps until I see a marker. By utilising the STOP acronym, we have something tangible we can anchor ourselves to, grounding ourselves and thus stepping out of the anxious, threat-based response and into a clear and more productive behaviour. If survival psychology can teach us anything, it's if we can stay alive and in the fight long enough, we have hope of getting out alive. After all, it's just running at the end of the day, so embrace the highs and lows and keep it in perspective. If you want help putting all this into action so you can run your best race, then click on the below freebie to overcome performance anxiety, or also join me on my free course and get started straight away. Happy running and see you out in the trails.